All right, folks, excuse the pun here, but we have some bombshell breaking news. Recently, after nearly 5 years, the FBI was finally able to track down and arrest the man suspected of dropping 2 pipe bombs off at both Democratic and Republican headquarters on January 6, 2021, only for him to tell the FBI that the reason he did that is because he believed Donald Trump's 2020 election lies. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, let's dive on in, okay? Pipe bomb suspect told FBI he believed 2020 election conspiracy theories. The suspect has been cooperating with the FBI, according to sources, and is expected to make his first court appearance on Friday, and this is an image of him. The man charged with planting 2 pipe bombs near the Democratic and Republican Party headquarters on the eve of the January 6 attack on the U.S. Capitol told the FBI he believed conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, according to 2 people familiar with the matter. Brian Cole Jr., 30, is cooperating with the FBI, NBC News has reported, citing a separate person familiar with the matter. Cole is expected to make his first court appearance on Friday. He was charged Thursday with leaving pipe bombs outside the Republican National Committee and Democratic National Committee in the hours before Donald Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. Trump has falsely claimed that the 2020 election was rigged. Cole was charged with transporting an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials, according to charging documents. The FBI has not publicly cited a motive, and I want to be very clear. This is preliminary reporting. This is based on leaks. A more fulsome account of his motives may be developed, but again, according to leaks and according to reporting, at least part of the reason he did this is because he believed 2020 election lies perpetrated by Donald Trump, suggesting that he was a Trump supporter. Okay, again, we have to be very, very careful about this, but this is the closest we've come to establishing a substantive motive since his arrest. Okay, so again, brace yourselves because the story could change in the coming days and weeks. The pipe bombs, or rather, not just change, but also further develop, right? Maybe this won't be contradicted at all, but again, maybe a more fulsome context will be provided. But what we know is that he believed Trump's election lies. The pipe bombs he's accused of planting were found the day of the January 6th riot, though investigators have said they were placed near the RNC and DNC on January 5th, so the day before. Trump received about 74 million votes nationally in 2020, while President Biden received roughly 81 million. Trump's claims about the 2020 election were part of former special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into his efforts to overturn the results. In his final report on the investigation, Smith said that Trump, quote, inspired his supporters to commit acts of physical violence by spreading, quote, demonstrably, and in many cases obviously false, claims about the 2020 election. Trump has publicly maintained he believes he won the election. And again, I will point out that many people who were convicted or pled guilty of the Capitol riot, the insurrection, have said in court that they were there and they did what they did because of Trump, because they believe Trump, much like the pipe bomber. The criminal case against Trump in connection with the January 6th attack was dropped after he was reelected in 2024, but Smith said that, quote, but for Trump's election and imminent return to the presidency, the office assessed that the admissible evidence was sufficient to obtain and sustain a conviction at trial. Smith said recently he wants to publicly testify about his investigation, but House Republicans rejected his request, instead planning to interview him behind closed doors on December 17th. So again, this is where Republicans are trying to do Donald Trump's political bidding, have their cake and eat it too, by suggesting that Jack Smith engaged corruptly or with impropriety, no evidence to support that against Trump. And so Smith called their bluff and said, okay, well, if you think what I did was wrong, yeah, I'm happy to testify, but let's do it in public for the American people to see. And Republicans are, no, we can't risk that. We can't risk Jack humiliating these Republican lawmakers or rebutting their claims and lies and conspiracy theories in broad daylight where it could politically backfire on Republicans. So again, they're walking a tightrope here. And again, Democrats need to be vigilant. Democrats need to use every means at their political disposal to make this politically painful for the Republicans if and when they interview Jack Smith, because so many of these closed-door interviews have backfired on the Republicans. I remember when they were pursuing an impeachment effort against President Biden, and so they interviewed, Hunter Biden's business partners, people like Devin Archer. And again, they didn't want to do it in public. They did it behind closed doors, and it backfired on them spectacularly, which is why, even though they made a big deal about it, they were never able to gain the public or political support, even though they controlled the House of Representatives, to ever file articles of impeachment against the president. It's a total failure. It looks like they're basically setting themselves up to do the same thing, but hoping this time it works. All right. So This is, again, regarding the pipe bomber, devastating news. And again, I cannot stress this enough. This is part of the reason why I didn't initially, do a video about this, is because we didn't know anything about his motives, and we have to be careful. And we still have to be careful. This is just one piece of information. There could be information here that could be absolutely damaging for Democrats, but it's the truth. There's just none at the moment. What we know at the moment is that we're still trying to, get an assessment of his motivation. But this seems to be a pretty big clue about his motivation, knowing that he told the FBI, yeah, I, believe that the 2020 election was stolen. Well, then it might make sense that, in a really nefarious, corrupt, criminal way, if you thought an election was stolen and you're a criminal mind, you're willing to take, vigilante, punishment into your own hands, right? That might make sense to an insane person that you would do what you did. That this guy did what he did. Maybe he planted these pipe bombs to intimidate Republican lawmakers into backing Trump, or because he felt that they were insufficiently loyal to Trump's 2020 election lies. Maybe that's how his warped brain rationalizes. Again, we don't know. But what we do know is he believed Trump's election lies. Matthew Gertz of Media Matters was commenting. He says, I've been wondering why the Trump administration had uncharacteristically shied away from saying anything about the alleged January 6 pipe bomber's political views. Which is interesting, because the initial reporting, they didn't speculate, and they love to speculate. They love to try to blame the radical left, Antifa, but they didn't here. They were rather circumspect. Well, as he points out, again, this might be why. Again, the suspect accused of being the January 6 bomber confessed to agents he planted the bombs and has indicated he supported Donald Trump, according to two people familiar with this interview. So again, the evidence currently sits that he was a Trump supporter who believe Trump's election lies. That's really, really politically bad for Trump, and has intimidated even his Justice Department from trying to spin this. Okay, again, we got to be very careful that we don't make the same mistake that so many Trump supporters have. But again, this is disastrous news for MAGA and for Trump and the Justice Department. We will continue to follow this case as time goes on, right? Because again, they're developments are happening at a rapid pace. Who knows what we will learn in a week? But again, the person who planted a bomb at both the Republican and Democratic National Committee headquarters, or the day before January 6th, this long-standing criminal justice mystery going back about 5 years, we're making rapid developments on it. He is now in custody, and he says he believes Donald Trump's lies about the 2020 election, which is one of the many reasons why everyone to this day, everyone, including the mainstream fucking media, including Fox News, but anybody who is dealing with Trump in the Oval Office, right? If you're at a press gaggle and you have a microphone and a camera, you guys dropped the ball by no longer fact-checking and correcting Trump about the 2020 election. So when he brings it up, he's like, it was rigged, I won. You guys don't even bother to correct him. This shit is why you should. You have an obligation, even now, even if you think, oh, we're just spinning tires, even if you don't want to debate it for an hour, to say, no, Mr. President, the election was not rigged. There's never been any evidence that it was rigged. You just lost fair and square to President Biden. Just do it in 5 seconds. This shit is why it matters, not just in abstract terms of democracy, but because political violence, not just at the insurrection, but a bombs against Democratic and Republican lawmakers as a consequence of these conspiracy theories. So the media who does not call this out to Trump's face, even today, should be called out and excoriated. So there you have it, folks. Major breaking development. And in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.